Welcome to the deep dive. We are jumping straight into some truly profound theological and historical source material
We
today.
really are.
We're going to be unpacking a detailed tafsir that's a commentary on Surah Maryam chapter 19 of the Holy Quran from a major compilation by Ali Abdur-Rasheed.
And this isn't just, a simple reading. It's an exploration of a very carefully constructed theological argument. Our mission here is to give you a shortcut to understanding how the Islamic tradition sees this whole continuity of prophecy.
The sheer timeline this one chapter covers is, well, it's staggering. It connects these foundational figures like Ibrahim and Musa with the miraculous stories of Zakariya, Yahya, Maryam, and of course her son Isa, or Jesus.
But the real goal is it's singular and it's incredibly powerful. The surah masterfully validates Isa as a deeply revered prophet of God.
A miracle of creation.
Exactly, a miracle. But at the same time, it logically dismantles the belief that he is the son of God or, part of divine Trinity. The entire structure of the surah is built to make that exact case.
Okay, let's unpack this. And we really have to start right at the very beginning with those 5 cryptic letters that open the chapter. Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ayn, Sad. Why would a chapter like this begin with what look like, well, random initials?
That's a great question. There's sort of symbolic anchors that immediately establish divine authority. Many commentators see them as a kind of shorthand for the most sublime attributes of God. For instance, the scholar Tabari, he suggested Kaf stands for Kabir, which is great, and Ha for Hadi, the guide.
So it's like a quick burst of divine majesty before the story even starts. But it seems like there's more to it than just that. These letters carry a specific symbolic weight.
Precisely. There's a really specific nugget here from Imam as-Sadiq. He connected the letters Ain and Sad to the suffering, the thirst, and the patience of al-Hussein and his followers who were martyred.
Wow.
So this shows you how early scholars viewed these initials, not just as a historical preface, but as containing prophetic symbols of future sacrifice and patience.
That's a powerful foundation. And from this abstract opening, the surah just pivots directly into the story of Zachariah. And this really kicks off the theme of miraculous birth, of God completely overriding natural law.
Yes. Zakariya was an ascetic, a leader among the Jewish learned men, and he was devoted to prayer in a sanctuary where he often saw Maryam. And the commentary, it really focuses on his prayer because it's so deeply human, so relatable.
Oh, it is. It's incredibly moving. He describes his own frailty, saying his bones are weakened and his head flares with hoariness.
Which means his hair has gone completely gray, like white ashes after a fire has burned out.
And the source materials gives these astonishing details. Zakariya was 120 years old, and his wife was 98. I mean, that context just it magnifies the miracle that's about to happen.
And his request wasn't just for a son, not really. It was about protecting a legacy. He feared that the worst of the Bani Israel, the children of Israel, specifically his wife's relatives, would take over and misuse his inheritance.
Wait, I'm curious. When the commentary talks about inheritance here, are we talking about, like, wealth and property or something more spiritual?
Well, that's a key scholarly disagreement. Many commentators debated this. But given Zakaria's piety, most believe the main inheritance he was worried about losing control of was the legacy of prophethood. The accurate teaching of the law. Not just, land or gold. He wanted an heir to continue the divine service.
And crucially, he prefaces this whole plea with a declaration. He says, "My Lord, I have never been unsuccessful in my prayer to thee." He had this absolute conviction.
Which is why God answers him immediately. Grants him a son named Yahya, John the Baptist. And the name Yahya itself means God enlivened him for faith.
So if Zakariya was so faithful, why did he still question the news? He asked, "When shall I have a son, and my wife is barren?" It sounds a little like doubt.
See, his reaction wasn't doubt, it was amazement at the means. I mean, you have a 120-year-old man married to a barren 98-year-old woman being told the laws of nature are being suspended for him.
Right.
His amazement serves a theological purpose. It shows God's power to create life instantly, regardless of physical causes. And that's essential preparation for the next, even bigger miracle.
And the sign he was given, he was unable to speak to people for 3 days and nights. Why muteness?
Well, the sign needed to be a clear physical distinction. He could still glorify God, he could still recite the Psalms, so he was perfectly healthy. But being mute toward other people confirmed the call he received was genuinely angelic, distinguishing it from any kind of hallucination or demonic interference. It confirmed the source.
This brings us to Yahya's early life. He received prophethood and wisdom while yet a child, maybe as young as 3. and he was commanded to take hold of the book with strength.
The book here is the Torah, the law given to Moses, and it signifies not just reading it, but having the determination, the willpower to implement that law without any compromise. Yahya was defined by his piety, his tenderness, and his purity.
But his life was so tragically short. The commentary dedicates quite a bit of space to his martyrdom.
It does. The text details his execution. His head placed on a tray of gold after he prohibited a king from an incestuous marriage, marrying his own niece or his wife's daughter.
So he spoke truth to power.
To absolute illegitimate power. And that act led directly to his sacrifice.
And the commentary links that sacrifice to a later one, citing this tradition that the skies never cried except upon the two, meaning Yahya and al-Hussein. That's a powerful and tragic thread that's being established here.
It gives a unique weight to these stories, doesn't it? It connects the prophets across centuries by this common theme of uncompromising devotion, even when it means death.
From that context of sacrifice, we move pretty naturally to Mary, who was related to Zakariya's wife. And she withdrew to a secluded place, setting up a veil for privacy and devotion.
And here's where it gets really interesting. This is the climax of the narrative on miraculous creation. God sends Gabriel, appearing to her as a well-made man.
Just a man, not a radiant angel.
Right. And Miriam's immediate reaction is one of pure piety. She seeks refuge in God from this sudden, unknown male figure. And she questions the means logically. She says, "No mortal has yet touched me, nor have I been unchaste." It's her logical human response.
She was thinking in terms of cause and effect.
And Jibreel explains, "I am only a messenger of your Lord, that I will give you a pure boy." The conception itself is described with almost miraculous speed. Commentators differ on the exact physical mechanism. Did he blow into her sleeve or her cloak? But the result was instantaneous. Some accounts say the entire conception and perfecting of the child took as little as 1 hour.
That emphasis on speed really reinforces that this is a miracle of pure creation, like Adam from dust. It's not a physical union.
Precisely. The power of God is responsible, not a biological father. This is the crucial pre-argument to the whole theological refutation later on.
So Miriam gives birth, all alone, by a dried-out date palm. And in her distress, she wishes she had died and been forgotten. Which isn't about the pain, is it? It's about the shame she knows she'll face.
Exactly. The shame before people who would doubt and slander her. And instantly, a voice calls out to her, either Jibreel or Isa himself, telling her not to grieve, pointing out a stream and instructing her to shake the dried palm trunk.
Okay, wait, going back to the dates for a second. If the tree was dried out, dead, why tell her to shake it? Was that part of the test or part of the miracle?
That's such a profound point of analysis in the commentary. It's both. It was part of the miracle because the tree was dead and it was out of season, but it was also a test. Even in the middle of this cosmic event, God requires effort from Miriam. She has to exert herself.
God could have just made the dates fall.
He could have, but the instruction teaches that the recipient has to play an active role. It emphasizes human agency right alongside divine power.
And then Isa speaks. His first words from the cradle immediately establish his status, which is, like you said, the whole point of the surah.
Absolutely. He proclaims, "Surely I am a servant of Allah. He has given me the book and made me a prophet." He was the undeniable divine proof, the hujjah for everyone who heard him. He was the sign.
He also confirms his commission to perform prayer and give charity, the zakah, and to be dutiful to my mother. These are the duties of a human prophet, a servant, not a deity.
Now, to really appreciate the continuity here, the argument being built, we need to zoom out and look at the ancient foundations of prophethood that are detailed earlier in the surah. These stories set the precedent long before Maryam.
Right, okay. Let's start with Idris, or Afnak, one of the earliest descendants of Adam mentioned.
His name, Idris, is often linked to the Arabic word for study because he was constantly engaged with previous scriptures. He's famously credited as being the first to write with a pen and the first to sew with thread. Foundational civilized acts.
And his story ends with the phrase, "And we raised him high in heaven,"
which commentators interpret in two main ways. Either a high spiritual status, an abstract station of closeness to God, or a literal physical ascent. Either way, it highlights his profound distinction.
So he's a precursor to Abraham, who was such a cornerstone. The commentary calls him a truthful man, a prophet.
And his biography, it just underscores his confrontation with worldly power from the very beginning. His birth was hidden because astrologers predicted he would overthrow King Nimrud.
And his challenge came against his own uncle, Azhar, the idol maker. That story of him smashing the idols but leaving the axe on the biggest one,
Yep.
that's key.
It was an act of nonverbal proof.
Yeah.
He left the axe there to show how helpless they were. They couldn't speak, they couldn't defend themselves, they couldn't even move the axe. He forced people to confront the powerlessness of what they worshipped.
And his faith was tested when Nimrod's people threw him into that massive blazing fire.
A critical theological moment. God commanded the fire. "O fire, be a comfort and a peace to Ibrahim." And the commentary points out that if the word peace wasn't there, the fire would have become intensely cold and killed him from hypothermia.
Wow, so it shows God's absolute precision.
Absolute, precise control over the elements of nature. Ibrahim walked out of the fire not as a god, but as an utterly protected servant. And his reward wasn't just survival, it was generational continuity. We gave to Ishaq and Yaqub, and each one of them, we made a prophet.
Then we move to Musa and Harun, Moses and Aaron. Musa is described as purified, and he was an apostle, a prophet. His story is the most extensive in the whole Quran.
He was called from the blessed side of the mountain and made to draw nigh, and that drawing near signifies a closeness of honor and respect, not a physical location. God doesn't exist in space, but Musa was elevated through that divine conversation.
And Harun was given as an aid, because he was more eloquent, to help Musa. It shows God supporting his prophets with what they need.
Excellent. Ismail, the prophet of promise. And this is where another scholarly disagreement comes up. Is this Ismail, the son of Ibrahim, or a later prophet, Ismail ibn Hisquel?
Why is that distinction important?
It just shows the breadth of the prophetic tradition being covered. But either way, the attribute applied to him is universally relevant. He was truthful in his promise.
And the example given is him waiting a whole year for a man he had promised to meet at a certain spot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an incredible commitment to integrity.
It is. And he enjoined on his family prayer and almsgiving. Every single one of these prophets, Idris, Ibrahim, Musa, Yahya, Isa, they are all linked by this unbroken chain, servitude, integrity, and divine power working through them.
So what does this all mean when you put it together? This whole catalog of miracles, the speaking baby, the man walking out of fire, the child born to centenarians, it all sets the stage for this central theological warning.
Exactly. The surah pivots to confront the claim. The beneficent God has taken to himself a son. And this claim was made by different groups, some Christians, some Jews, even Arab idol worshippers talking about the angels.
And the response is, well, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Commentary describes this statement as an abominable assertion.
The magnitude of this error, of challenging the singularity of God, is described in these physical, cosmic terms. The heavens may almost be rent thereat, and the earth cleave asunder, and the mountains fall down in pieces.
That's terrifying language. The shock to the natural order is meant to show the gravity of the mistake.
It is. It's used to drive home the logic. The concept of a son is just incompatible with God's nature. If God takes a son, that implies need or deficiency or resemblance, and God is free of need, requires no assistance, and has no body. All of creation, Isa and the angels included, must come to God only as a servant.
The Surah then concludes with this very stern warning. It contrasts that righteous prophetic line with the evil generation who came after them, the ones who neglected prayers and followed sensual desire.
And this is where terminology is so important. There's a crucial distinction in the Arabic. The righteous successor is a caliph, but this evil successor is a half. They may have inherited the positions of authority, but they totally failed in the duty of service.
And for anyone who doubts the resurrection, the final judgment, the source gives the ultimate rebuttal. Does not man remember that we created him before when he was nothing? The first creation from nothing is the absolute proof that the return is possible.
Which raises this important question about the final destination. The commentary emphasizes that on the day of judgment, the pious will gather to receive honors. And this is described as achieving a proximity to God that's considered more exalted and more valuable than paradise itself.
And on the other hand, the guilty get this frightening vision. They'll be driven to hell thirsty, like a thirsty camel racing towards water, only to find fire.
Before it closes, God reminds the prophet not to rush to judgment against the deniers, noting that past generations who only focused on worldly display, those who were better in respect of good and outward appearance, were completely destroyed, without a trace. Their worldly glory meant nothing.
So we've charted this whole continuity of prophecy, from the ancient foundation of Idris right through the miraculous births of Yahya and Isa up to the final divine reckoning. The entire narrative just reinforces God's absolute power and the fact that all these great figures, no matter their miracles, were servants.
The ultimate lesson, really, from this whole commentary is that contrast between transient worldly glory and ever-abiding good works. Those who trusted in appearances and wealth were destroyed, but the righteous have a recompense that is best in yielding fruit.
The surah ends with this profound reminder that God will inherit the earth and all those who are on it. So considering the stories of prophets who were given immense worldly power like Suleiman or Muzahaw, might acknowledging this ultimate inevitable inheritance change the way you approach managing your own time, your own resources, and your influence in this world? Something for you to ponder until our next deep dive.